to Ask the Experts. I'm Jill Schlesinger, editor-at-large of CBSMoneyWatch.com. I'm joined by...
Jill's main skill is talking, so that's why we have you, Jill.
Supposedly, as your face, but evidently not today.
I'm executive editor Jack Otter.
Now, this is very exciting, Jack.
Talking, editing, and driving.
And doing.
Yeah.
He actually does something. It's awesome. Mike Quincy is joining us. Would you say Quincy or Quincy?
You only say Quincy if
you're from Quincy.
It's Massachusetts.
Right, and you're not that.
And I'm a Yankee fan, so.
Thank you for coming out as a Yankee
fan. But I could run for mayor of Quincy. I could say Quincy for Quincy.
I love that. Brilliant. Why do we have Mike on? Because you love Mike. Mike is the auto content specialist of Consumer Reports. He joined Consumer Reports way back in 1993. And last time you were on, you said it's your dream job, right?
In some ways, it's even gone beyond my dream job to drive different cars every day. And
why leave, right?
Well, I mean, you too.
Yeah. You have a 327-acre test track in your office.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's right, but except you have to live in East Hooppetsville to get, so whatever.
It's a little cheaper than Westchester.
I know, that's true. Okay, Consumer Reports. He's the author of Consumer Reports' first ever blog. How about that? It debuted from Detroit's 2006 North American International Auto Show. And you basically do everything about cars. You are the car guy. Mike, the car guy. He reviews copy, he does this, he does media liaison. Most importantly, he appears here on Ask the Experts, which is really what we care about. Mike, what'd you drive down to our office in? Which car?
A very nice Infiniti M35 hybrid. You've got a kind of a sports sedan with interesting, responsive steering and about 30 miles per gallon, believe it or not.
How about that?
I got a question for you. So I know in newspapers where I've worked, the car guy, he got the delivery each Monday of his new car. My impression is Consumer Reports works differently. Is that right?
Very differently.
Yeah.
Consumer Reports is the only automotive publication that buys its own test cars.
That's what I thought.
We take no free products from manufacturers. We take no advertising in our magazine or our website. We give unbiased truth about products, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
We're like that except for with the advertisers.
And we don't necessarily buy all the index funds.
Wouldn't that be awesome? We were like, we're doing a story on this. Let's just get a $10 million portfolio.
I think I'll
and see how
expense it. Yeah.
That's right. Perfect.
Test drive it.
So I have a couple of interesting questions. We have like a zillion questions. But let's start off by saying that right now, obviously, gas is coming off from the highs. But the newest issue of Consumer Reports is the best ways to save gas. So give us your top three. What are your three favorite ways? Drive less.
Drive less. Drive slower, for example.
Slower.
When you go if you increase your speed from, like, say, 65 to 75 miles per hour, you're going to probably cut maybe 5 miles per gallon from your overall fuel economy.
That much? Wow.
It's hard to say drive slower when you're driving lots of interesting cars, but the traffic around New York City, certainly you have to drive slower because you don't have a choice.
That's true.
The other very easy thing you can do is check your car, your tires, tire pressure in your car. And there's a little placard by the driver's side door that has the pounds per square inch of the amount of pressure you should put in your tires. Mm-hmm. It's not the number on the sidewall of your car. Sidewall of your tires.
Right.
People think that's where it is. It's also in your owner's manual. Check the tires when they're cold and bring them up to the normal pressure, because underinflated tires have to work harder, and thus you're getting a poor fuel economy. The last thing that's really simple is go through your car and get the junk out of your trunk.
Really?
Okay. You see, you're carrying around this box full of National Geographic. You're saying, I'm going to bring it to the recycling center, or I'm going to donate to the library, or I've got these, old dishes from my aunt, and I've been, take all the stuff that you don't need out of your car, because weight is the enemy of fuel economy. So the lighter you can make your car, the more fuel efficient it will be.
Well,
it'll handle better too, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's not unlike your own body.
Yes.
Exactly. You will handle better with a lighter weight.
That's right.
What are you going to do? Okay. I want to know the most important thing that I'm an idiot with cars. You know that. I've said that before. I am here
but
playing
you have good
straight
taste
man.
in cars, because every time you tell me the cars that you've owned, I've said, I love that car. I love that car. I love that car.
But now let me ask you
She
something.
reads Consumer Reports.
Exactly. I go in, I say to Jack, what do I do? And we have a guy here who runs some of the sales department, Eric, and sometimes I'll go and I'll say to him, what do you think about this car? He's like, here's my question. These guys at MoneyWatch always say to me, you're kidding me. Like, you go back to the dealership to get your car serviced? Like, are you an idiot? Am I an idiot? I am an idiot.
Not necessarily.
I'm not that much of an idiot.
But you forgot one little detail.
Yeah.
After the warranty expired.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
that's true. There you go.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got an issue with your car, it's under warranty, definitely bring it back.
Right.
I mean, they've got to deal with it. I mean, listen, the dealers have trained mechanics. That the people that work at the dealers, they have to know the ins and outs of all their cars. And even mechanics these days are almost more computer scientists than they are, pulling wrenches.
Right.
So in some ways, they're real experts and they know their stuff. On the other hand, when you say you buy a car at a dealer and they give you, 6 coupons for free oil changes, what they're wanting you to do is to get back in the dealer.
Right.
Because they can't sell you anything unless you're not there. But according to the warranty laws, I believe that I've learned about is if you get your car serviced somewhere and you have receipts, then then there's a problem. The factory can't say, well, you didn't get it serviced at the dealer, so it's void. That's baloney. Never buy that. If you have a trusted mechanic that your friends and family and neighbors use, and the person is good, then they're worth their weight in gold.
Okay.
But you might be overcharged. You might be not overcharged. You might pay more when you go to a dealer. And Consumer Reports' latest survey about this said the overwhelming majority of respondents of the survey said we definitely prefer independent mechanics.
See?
So.
Yeah,
Jack's right.
I had a situation where I was told that I needed to have the dealership mechanics told me they needed to flush the cooling system. And I went
Is that
to
what they call it these days?
and I went to the local garage guy I've used a lot, and they tested it down to whatever 60 below or something. They said the color was right. They said they were trying to sell you something you didn't need.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
But anyone can do that. That's not just. I should
Right,
say that
right.
the
Right.
local guy could have done that too. Your keyword was trusted.
Any mechanic could tell you, you need to change the transmission fluid. Well, a lot of transmissions are sealed, whereas the fluid is there for life. And so when someone tries to sell you something like come on.
Right. All right, now let's just talk about some used car questions, because a lot of people driving cars into the ground now, right? Because they say, I can't afford this and I don't want another car payment. So here's from Bruce. At what point does it not make sense to repair a used car? Here's my scenario. I live 3 miles from work. I drive an old car, a 1986 Buick Somerset, my friend. Car runs good, safe, and I get repaired well. But basically, he thinks he can repair the money for less money than making a car payment. And he goes months or years between repairs. I got to say, why do it, right? What's the point? Should he just drive it until it just stops?
Well, economically speaking,
Yeah.
the longer you can drive your car, if you can drive your car into the ground, what's the word? Amortizing?
Amortizing.
Thank you.
There you go. He's a car guy, but I do the financial crap still here. I'm the queen of the crap in this castle.
The longer you can drive your car, especially once it's paid for, you're stretching out those automotive dollars that you're putting out. So if it's running well, if it's safe, if you don't think it's going to die at you at 2 o'clock in the morning in the West Side Highway,
right?
Then keep driving it. However, that being said, a 1986 Buick, and if you're snickering at 1986, then you're old like me,
right? I remember that you're well.
I graduated from college in 1986.
There you go.
It has 1986 safety technology, which means that it has no airbags, no anti-lock brakes, no stability control. The crash test minimum standards were different back then than they are today. Now, yes, you're going to be saving money, but you're also in 1980s engine technology, transmission technology, emissions.
Right.
It's not a very efficient car. So there's more than just money when it comes to it. But I mean, the basic question is really more about money. And I think if you're driving an old car and the repairs are consistent, it's like every month you got to put money into it. And when the price of a repair is more than, say, the wholesale value of the car,
right? That's silly.
There you go.
Right.
That's kind of the tipping point for me. I think.
Right. My brother-in-law drives he has a station car, right? It's an old Toyota. It is it's 20 years old. And he says, I cannot get rid of it. It will not die on me. He says, I wish I could. I just can't do it. It's makes too much sense. So there it is, a great station car. On the other end of the spectrum, let's talk a little bit about this whole hybrid electric nonsense thing.
And some would call it that.
The worldwide internet. I heard it's going to catch on. Okay, Stephen asks, when do you truly save overall on buying a hybrid or even an electric car? My current vehicle, a Jaguar X-Type getting 17 city mile per gallon, is sold for a third of its purchase price to buy a CRZ. Have I advanced the cause? So he wants to know the tipping point. So I always say that
advance the cause. Are you trying to get a date on Saturday night? Because you're not advancing that cause.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Jaguar's not a sexy car anymore. It's like old lady car.
Well, his old one is a sexy car.
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I'm saying. So here's the thing. People are looking at this like, my other dumbass brother-in-law who bought like a hybrid Lexus for like boatloads of money. I'm like, you're never getting your money back on that, right? What is the break even? When do people know?
I'm just snickering at, hey, babe, I'm going to pick up my Honda on Saturday night.
There you go.
I'm leaving the Jaguar at home, but I'm going to pick up in that Honda.
Sweet ride.
So if she's environmentally minded,
Right.
maybe that'll be just the ticket,
Well, that's the thing.
Could
That's
be.
a very LA thing. But I think here in New York, we just think that it's just sort of a loser thing. Okay. So where's the break even?
I think the break even for a hybrid is when gas is probably $5 or $6 a gallon.
That's what I thought. Because I thought that the break even was somewhere around 5.25 or something, where it starts to make sense.
I mean, when you buy, say, a Toyota Corolla for $16,000 or $17,000, and you compare it to the price of a Prius, which is maybe $20,000 to $26,000, the amount of time that you'll have to drive that Prius to take those fuel savings, because I mean, the Corolla got about 32 miles per gallon overall in Consumer Reports test. The Prius got 44 miles per gallon. I mean, the Prius is a great car. Consumer Reports loves the Prius, but it doesn't necessarily make financial sense when you compare it to what else you could buy. If you're starting at ground zero and you're going to buy a new car, you're going to have to drive the Prius a long time. The price of fuel is going to have to be really high in order for you to actually see big savings. But on the other hand, if you're driving, let's say, a 10-year-old Chevy truck, a big pickup, a Ford Expedition, a huge SUV,
right,
and you just say, forget this,
right,
and you jump into a Prius, I mean, your fuel bills come way down. You're like, oh my gosh.
I would like to see the studies on how many people drive large trucks and go into a Prius.
Well, that's a fair point.
There's that one person.
That's a fair point.
Jack, what's on your mind?
Well, I was going to add one more thing into his logarithm here, which is diesel. If you're doing a lot of highway miles, the diesel might actually be cheaper than the hybrid.
You heart diesel. In fact,
and the cars are a lot more fun.
I love diesels.
Wait, so you like a BMW X5 diesel is better than the BMW X5?
I'm not a big fan of the X5 in general, but diesels overall I love. I had to make a media appearance at a different network last week. Please forgive me. But I had to drive. I had to drive from my house in Connecticut into New York City, and then the next day I had to drive back to Connecticut, and then we had to drive to a different town in Connecticut for Father's Day for my wife's father, and then back to our house. So I mean, and I left the track with 3/4 of a tank in a Mercedes E-Class diesel, and I then drove to work on Monday, and I still didn't have to stop for fuel.
Wow.
So I mean, the highway mileage for diesels is unbelievable. I mean,
and it's cleaner than it was because people have this old notion of what diesel is.
They're cleaner. They're more responsive. They're not as noisy. I mean, when you're getting the last Volkswagen Golf diesel, I think got about 600 miles for a tank of fuel. I mean, it's like driving from New York to Detroit without stopping for fuel.
Wow.
I mean, that's
not a great example. We're talking about a Volkswagen Detroit, but still,
If you're going from Munich to Stuttgart, you can get there problem.
I think the United States should embrace small diesels. Europe, they're all over in Europe. I mean, obviously.
Okay, so diesel before hybrid or electric. Right now, come on, go on the line, man.
For highway,
if you're a road warrior, you're on the highway all the time, Monday through Friday. Nothing beats a diesel.
Okay,
but even the hybrids on the highway are phenomenal. For my money, I agree. I think diesels are a lot more fun to drive. They're more engaging to drive. But either of them, you're going to be amazed on how many miles you can drive before stopping for fuel.
I'm amazed. I might have to stop to go to the bathroom before I move fuel, which is fabulous.
You'll have to empty your tank before you have to fill up the car's tank.
See, now they need a marketing slogan just like that. You're there. Okay,
call me.
Jeff wants to know, what's the average life expectancy of the batteries that are used in today's hybrid and electric cars?
That is not easily answered. Consumer Reports has 10 years worth of data on hybrids. And we have found that we are not finding any significant failure rates of the batteries
In 10 years?
In 10 years.
Wow.
We are finding that the hybrid technology overall is holding up quite well. But when they started coming on, becoming mainstream, we talked to the manufacturers, and they kind of gave a slightly politically correct answer. The batteries are designed to last the life of the vehicle. Okay, nothing like being a little ambiguous, but that's kind of the stock answer that they gave. But it's so, I mean, knock on wood, it's still they're holding up pretty well. I would buy a hybrid with a fair amount of confidence. In fact, we did a follow-up test on the second generation Prius. We found a guy that actually had one that had 220,000 miles on it.
Holy smokes.
He was from Iowa.
Of course.
Retired guy. True story. From Iowa, retired guy. And we got in touch with him, and he's like, "I'll drive it over."
He's going to drive from Iowa to Connecticut.
Iowa.
See you at 10.
And it's the middle of winter, and he drove it. And I mean, obviously, he's one guy. He's not necessarily representative of every Prius owner, but aside from regular maintenance, he hasn't had any problem with it. And we put his car through our whole battery of tests, acceleration, fuel economy, and all that stuff. And it's just as good as it was when it came out in 2001 or 2002.
That's awesome.
I mean, you really this isn't like weird technology anymore. You can look at hybrids and say, I'm buying in.
Okay, and if you do have to replace a battery, how much is it?
It would depend because there's basic there's battery packs and things like that.
So the warranty expires before the battery does usually. In other words, like if you bought a warranty, a 3 or 4 year warranty, the battery's going to outlast the warranty.
No,
right?
I think the battery warranty goes longer than the basic warranty.
Okay. All right, let's go into a little bit of what kind of car should I get?
Yeah. Oh, my favorite.
That's
Not
fun,
mine.
yeah.
That's yours. You come up next.
Let's spend someone else's money.
Tara says she has an hour commute each way. Ugh. Fill up my tank twice a week. My car is not paid for yet. I already have 124,000 miles on it. But it seems to run well. It's a 2004 Suzuki Aereo. Oh boy, he don't like that. Well, when I bought it used, it had 15,000 miles on it. With my mileage and gas expense, what's a good choice I can make for my next car? So I got to commute a lot. I need something small and affordable. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say you're going to say something like that diesel Volkswagen doo-doo-doo, right?
Yeah, I mean the Volkswagen Golf and the Jetta are both again phenomenal highway cruisers. They're probably going to be a little bit more expensive than an older Suzuki. But I mean honestly, almost any car that she trades up to is going to feel like a big jump up in quality and comfort and things like that. To spend a little bit less, I might look at a Nissan. Oh, I'm blanking out. The cheap Nissan is
not the Altima, but the one below that.
Right.
It's the okay. Let's get back to that in a second. It's not the Leaf because that's the electric one. Oh, he's cheating. The Sentra. It's the, oh my God, he's turning red also. By the way, the best thing in the world is just like stump the car guy. Jack, what kind of car do you have?
A 2003 Saab 9.3.
Of course you have a Saab.
Yeah.
You know what?
I knew
What
you'd
is
say
that
that.
like?
It's such a New
ridiculous.
England-y thing.
It's either a New Englandy thing or like a WASP thing. Like you have to have a
well,
Saab, basically.
It's kind of a combo.
Exactly.
Sort of the, twofer,
do you have a nice tweed blazer with little elbow pads? Okay, what do you got?
The Nissan Versa.
The Versa. It was vice versa.
All the people, all the PR people I know from Nissan right now are ready to wring my neck.
All right, we'll spend some time on Nissan then. We'll give them some love. It's a great car.
It's a Nissan Versa. It's comfortable. It's fuel efficient. It's going to be much more comfortable than the old Suzuki. Quieter. I would definitely look at a Versa because it'll be a little less money than a diesel.
Okay.
I'm going to go all personal finance on this woman, though. Sorry to go here. But I think, did you say that she owes more money than it's worth?
She said it's not paid for yet.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah. Is that one of those like 6 or 7 year car loans that you get suckered into?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But she says it's not paid for yet.
Okay.
So we're not sure.
Okay. That's all right.
All right.
But it's like you want to really map out your mileage and everything else and make sure that you're never going to be in a situation where you're underwater on your car.
Just borrow it and do it over son. No, I'm kidding. Sarcasm. New York girl. Dave has an Audi A4 Quattro with 191,000 miles on it, 2001. That might be a miracle in Audi land, I might add. Good tires, new brakes, rotors, good body, loaded interior, many new... You see, like I know a little bit about every car, which is frightening. Major engine components have so far never failed. But the The timing chain adjusters have just failed. $750 a piece plus labor. Should I drop $1,500, $2,000 into a car that's probably worth $1,500 to $2,000? The answer is no. How about a new Audi? What's your new favorite Audi?
My new favorite Audi is an Audi A8.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Because it's so
Easy for you to say.
But you guys are having a 4, so come on. How's the 4?
I really like the A4. It's not quite as edgy as it used to be. The steering and handling got a little watered down, but it still doesn't make it a boring car. I still find it very engaging to drive. Not quite as fun as a BMW 3 Series, which really is the standard of that class, and has been so for many, many years. But the A4 is still very comfortable, good seats, decent reliability, but Audis are kind of a crapshoot. I mean,
totally, right?
Well, when someone says, I'm thinking about an Audi and should I buy or lease, and there's some cars I think you definitely want to buy because they're gonna hold up for a long time. There's certain cars that you think after the warranty's over, I'm not so sure. I mean, Audi's one of those brands that I would probably lease before I bought because if any problem, and Audis can have problems and they can be expensive to fix.
Right.
So if you lease it, you're going to be leasing it during the warranty period. So when the lease is up, the warranty is up too. If there's going to be any problems, you're like, well, goodbye.
The other guy's got it. Yeah.
I asked Eric Danitz whether I should buy an Audi, and he's like, said the same thing. He said, because that's a leaser kind of, it's sort of like, it's like the Fiat of Germany.
Oh, not that bad.
Fix it again, Tony.
Speaking of Fiats, we bought our Fiat 500. Which is the new Fiat that's
Really?
being sold in the United States.
We could have brought that into the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
And I went down to Yonkers, the home office of Consumer Reports in Yonkers for a meeting. We went out to lunch, and Yonkers has got like old school neighborhoods. And, and we went to this Italian place, and I pulled the Fiat, because I drove the Fiat down. And I'm telling you, half the restaurant emptied out.
Oh my God, that's awesome!
It's Michael Schumacher driving a Ferrari. No, it's Mike Quincy driving a Fiat.
Awesome. How was it?
It's not that bad.
But come on, not that
bad.
bad.
But people were saying, compared to the Smart, it's responsive. It's kind of fun. It's very distinctive looking. We have one with a manual transmission, which is fun to drive. The steering is good. Has enough power to get up down hills on the Merritt Parkway. It's kind of promising. We'll have to see how the reliability pans out, and we'll have to get Consumer Reports survey on that one. But really, my first impression is it's probably the best Fiat that any American has driven in 4 generations.
That's awesome.
How about that?
I like to hear that. That's cool.
Peugeot next.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go back to all the old brands.
Yeah.
That's great.
Renault.
Okay, Jack, this is a good one for you. Colin from Minnesota. How can I use the price of used cars similar to the new car I'm considering in negotiations? In other words, he says, for instance, a 2-year-old Volvo XC Cross Country 90 cost $28,000, but a brand new one cost $42,000. I bought the used one because the dealer would not budge enough. Any suggestions for success next time?
I like his logic. Unfortunately, I don't think that, I think he's totally talking about apples and oranges here. The dealer is looking at what kind of profit they can make on this new car. And if the arbitrage is great, then that's good for Colin. It makes no difference to the dealer.
Right.
So if I were him, I would say, even if you could get them down to 40, okay, is it worth 12 grand? Probably not, right?
Yeah, and the first 2 years of a car's life, or when it goes through its biggest hit of depreciation.
And so so in general, you still sort of go by the old tried and true, like my dad says, buy a 1 to 2 year old car with a big fat warranty attached to it. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, sure. That's one of the smartest automotive values. And just to add to what you're saying about the dealer and dealing with a new car, traditionally new car dealers have the smallest profit margin on a new car sale. So there's not as much negotiating room as you think, but when it comes to used cars, their markup is a lot higher. So there's a lot more negotiating room for a used car. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Rhonda asks a question. It seems that you can get used cars now for the same price as new, and if you purchase the new, you get the benefit of 0% interest or lower rates, right? Because a lot of the car loans don't work quite as well for the pre-owned. With that said, which's best? I can't find a used car with less than 30,000 miles on it lately. That seems to be the new norm. Does it really make more sense to buy new? And if in that case, is there any wiggle room negotiating on prices? So there's that question. Why is it that you can't get a good car loan on a used car?
Well, there's a couple things going on here. The direct answer to that question is that the banks just think it's not quite as good collateral.
Right.
The new car is better collateral. But there's some funny dynamics going on here. One is that because people stopped buying cars in '08 and 2009, and because we had this tsunami in Japan, all these forces have combined to reduce the used car supply. Meanwhile, rock bottom interest rates, and you got a better interest rate in the new car, means that the arbitrage is actually gone. And in some cases, yeah, you might as well buy the new one. We actually have a list on MoneyWatch of cars that are slightly cheaper based on their 0% financing, new, than they would be if you bought it lightly used.
And it's also the case that because in 2008, which was now, we'd be rolling over 3-year leases, people weren't getting new leases in 2008, so there just aren't as many cars that are out there. All right, I got another question.
But for her, you know what I would say is, if you can, just wait.
Right.
Give it 6 months. Don't buy a car right now.
Well, I would agree with that. Okay, here's Annie. I'm going to help. You got to help out my sisters here. Okay. We don't like walking into auto dealerships. By the way, if car dealers were smart, what they would do is they would go find a bunch of women who they're like their target customer, not like the hot chicks that they hire. They don't like get someone who's washed up pharmaceutical sales rep and come over to cars. You get somebody who looks like the person who's going to buy your car, and you have that person become like a super duper salesperson.
I think that, didn't Saturn really try that?
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. Didn't work that well for them, evidently. So here's Annie, who says she's going to purchase a new car in the next week. Her car was stolen and totaled by the end. So listen to this. Annie says, I've almost always purchased my cars from my ex-husband, who was a salesman for years. That's kind of funny, right? Yeah. Okay, whatever. I'm branching out. He's no longer a salesman. I'm about
no longer a husband.
Right, exactly. He was definitely not a husband. I'm about to begin the negotiations. Any tips to help a woman negotiate a car price? My initial discussion with one dealership only offered my $500 of sticker. I don't think so, she says. I would love to do this on my own without bringing in the big guns or boys.
Well, I think... I was always told in English class, never use the expression "in this day and age," because it's such a trite and stupid expression.
Say it.
In this day and age,
thank you.
If you have a salesperson, if you're a woman, you walk into a car dealer and you have a salesperson say, "Well, bring in your husband or bring in your father,"
right,
and walk out.
But
Just walk out.
So the best thing that she can do would be, my guess, is to go out and buy the Consumer Reports car guide, right?
You need to find out the price that the dealer paid for the car.
Available online?
Available at Consumer Reports, and to be fair, other websites have a lot of this pricing information, but Consumer Reports has
does it so beautifully.
Consumer Reports has a bottom line price, and we have the information that shows how much the dealer actually paid for the car. And what that means is when a dealer advertises in the newspaper or online saying, we'll sell it to you below invoice, they can do that because they're getting kickbacks from the factory. Now, Consumer Reports has the information that says, we know what the kickbacks are, so we know exactly what the dealer paid for the car, and you start the negotiations from the dealer cost up, not the sticker down.
Oh, I like that.
And depending on the supply and demand of the car in question, you can say to the dealer, listen, would you take 3% above your cost or 4% above your cost, for example. But if the price of gas is $6 a gallon and people are standing in line to buy a Toyota Prius, they're not going to go. They're not going to negotiate. They're going to say, listen, I got 25 people that want to buy this car at sticker, so don't talk to me about negotiating.
Okay, here's Colin. This is so great. How long does a used car typically stay on a car dealership lot before it goes back to auction? Who knows? Wow. I wouldn't know. I mean, how do you know that?
It depends on how much the dealership is paying for that, blacktop.
or if they're paying the note on, because they say they go to auction, they buy a bunch of cars, they take out a loan to buy that, so.
When are they rolling over? That's what you want to know.
I mean, sometimes some people would suggest that toward the end of the month, the dealer's a little bit more desperate to move metal, because they don't want to keep carrying cars on their lot. So you sometimes have maybe a little bit more leverage when it comes to that. But certainly dealers don't want to keep any car in their lot for very long at all.
Is there something to be said? Ask Corlin. Is there something to be said for like the no haggle car lots, or is there? I mean, everyone's a haggler. It's like going to the Arab Shuk in Jerusalem. Jerusalem. Like that's the premise. You come here to haggle.
Well, the nice thing is now I don't think you even need to ask that question. You do as Mike was suggesting. You go look up what, say, 3% over dealer invoice is, and if that's the price or close to it at the no haggle place, then they're playing the game fairly. And if it's not, then they're just putting expensive stickers on and saying we're not going to haggle. So you don't need to go there.
About 10, 12 years ago, the no dicker sticker was kind of was
I don't think you can say this is a family program.
the no dicker sticker. It's like Bart Simpson saying, we could say hell in school. Hell. And a number of dealers and even Saturn was a one price approach. But if you have a Honda dealership that's saying, we're having the price you see is what you're going to pay and it's a fair price.
Right.
The Honda dealership 10 miles away might say, well, we'll take $50 off. So it didn't, in theory, it was supposed to make the buying process less stressful, but the truth is that people are going out and negotiating anyway.
Exactly. Okay, here's Monica. She says, perfect timing. We're trying to figure out if we should start leasing our security vehicles instead of trying to keep repairing our current fleet, which is costing us a fortune. Any advice on leasing out our vehicle fleet? Who knows how many they have, but let's just say you need a dozen security cars. Can't you go knock out a deal with one of these guys and get something good there?
You should be able to, and I think most of the major automotive companies have a number of people devoted to fleet sales only.
Yeah.
And the funny part is that a lot of the car companies are always competing with who can say we're the number one seller for the year. The problem is a lot of those cars are fleet sales and they make no money on them.
Really?
So it's almost like if I was the CEO of a car company, I'd rather say we're the most profitable car company instead of we sold the most cars. But
no kidding.
I mean, just driving here in New York City, you see tons of Ford Escape hybrids.
Yes.
For example,
Yes.
they're everywhere.
Right.
So certainly there are people in Ford that sell fleet sales of these, and that might not be a bad security vehicle because a lot of times you're doing the stop and go driving and low speed, and maybe you can drive it for a while on electric only. I think a lot of cabbies in the city certainly are seeing great fuel economy improvements over the Crown Victorias.
And there might be a deduction for her depending on what the incentives are to load up on green stuff at her
Right.
company.
Sure.
That's right. Oh God! They voted on the new taxi.
The new
cabs,
taxi.
right?
Yep.
And so it's going to be something like a minivan, because people want bigger, more
And
room
with
to
the
get
full
in and out.
sunroof, it's a funky looking
It's
thing.
a weird thing.
Yeah.
I personally could just I don't care what you drive. Please just drive better.
Yeah.
Cab drivers are just not good drivers anymore. They used to be awesome,
I gotta say, last night I wanted to get to the broadcast center in time for this meeting.
Yeah. Good luck, huh?
And he did it for me.
Yeah.
It
How
was a
was
little
that?
bit crazy. I mean, if I was him and my wife was sitting there next to me, I would have been dead.
Okay. Yeah.
But she wasn't in the car, so it was
did you
great.
throw an extra 20 at him or something?
Yeah.
It was like,
$100, get me to the airport now. Right?
He was good. I mean, everyone else thought he was an awful driver, but the guy in the back seat was buckled in and loving it.
All right, Debbie wants to know, I need a reliable four-wheel drive vehicle for the winter months. I live in the mountains of NC. I believe that's North Carolina. My family has owned several
Blue
Jeep
Ridge?
products in the past. Jeep, you ready?
right.
I am hoping to purchase a 2011 Jeep Wrangler hardtop or a Jeep Liberty this fall that will be within my budget. Do you have any comments on either of these vehicles? I will withhold my comments because my friend has a Jeep Wrangler with that has a soft top. But you first, Mike. You're the expert, for God's sakes.
I just said the Jeep Wrangler is the answer to the current trivia question of what is the lowest rated car in Consumer Reports.
Wow.
That's pretty
Okay.
ugly,
So
yeah.
Debbie, no Wrangler for you.
Out of a possible 100 score,
Yes.
and the Lexus LS scored 99. The Jeep Wrangler scored a 17.
What?
Okay, this means you're not going on to the next grade. It means you're probably going to trade school.
Right.
It is not the valedictorian. The Wrangler is very good at going off-road. I think the Wrangler is a lot of fun in the summer when you take the top off and you're driving around Block Island and
Yeah.
what. But day to day,
Ridiculous.
forget it.
What about the Liberty?
The Liberty is also a pretty. Can I say crappy?
Yes.
It's a crappy vehicle.
It is.
I'm sorry.
Is there any Jeep that you like?
The only Jeep that I like is the redesigned Grand Cherokee, but I have to say that we do not have reliability data on it yet because it was just redesigned. But this is a vehicle that Chrysler did very well on. It's based on the Mercedes ML, so it's got a really good platform. The V8 engine is smooth. It's powerful. The interior is better. I really like driving the Grand Cherokee. I don't know if we're going to recommend it yet because of reliability, but the Jeep products have really kind of taken a back seat to kind of the renaissance that Chrysler's going on right now. Chrysler spent a lot of time and money improving their product line, improving their interiors. In fact, the next issue of Consumer Reports will feature our latest tests of almost the entire redesigned Chrysler product line, and I'm not going to give away the results right now, but check in to find out more about the Jeep Liberty, the Jeep Patriot, the Jeep Compass, things like that.
So what should she get in that price range? Let's say she wants American made.
Four-wheel drive for the winter months.
Oh, don't
open up the can of worms about what makes it American made. By the way,
true.
Yeah,
that's
right.
True.
They're all like whatever. Right?
For something sort of affordable with four-wheel. I mean, she doesn't go into great detail. I mean, does she need incredible amounts of ground clearance? I mean, if she's doing heavy off-roading that the Wrangler would be good at, that's one thing. But if she's just going through a little bit of snow once in a while,
it's North Carolina. How much snow could there be?
There's
some mountains.
Yeah.
Right?
I would probably get a Subaru Forester or a Toyota RAV4. To be honest with you,
Subaru Forester or RAV4. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
More fuel efficient, great reliability, comfortable interiors.
Yep.
Really did well in Consumer Reports tests. I know that people love the Wrangler, but I wouldn't want to drive one day to day. Forget it.
I was by the way, I was on a 4.5 hour trip from Aspen to Denver in a Jeep Wrangler with 6 people and 6 pairs of skis.
Wow.
So I will never, ever, ever get in that car again.
6 people in
6
a Wrangler?
People. It was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But
Hope
we
they
were
were
in
skinny.
college. It seemed fun.
Oh, college. That doesn't. I drove to Florida in a Volkswagen Convertible. One of those with 4 guys.
Yeah.
From Connecticut.
I don't know if you remember the Subaru XT Coupe.
Yeah.
There's those little pointy things.
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
One of my roommates had one in college, and we drove from Saratoga Springs, New York, to Tampa in one of those with one other guy. So we all have these college road trip stories.
Okay, here we go. This is a little bit of a sad sack story. You ready?
Okay.
Jack, listen up. Michael says, experts, I recently leased a new vehicle, and 2 months in, I realized it isn't the right car for me.
Do we have any violin music? I mean, a little violin music maybe?
But here's the deal. I'm looking to trade it in on another model. I know I'm going to get crushed financially. What should I do to avoid or minimize the
I think we got an answer for him. I've been getting press releases since long before I started here in multiple jobs from an outfit called leasetrader.com.
Right.
Interesting.
And we never really do anything with leasetrader.com despite these clever press releases. Well, now we're going to talk about them. Apparently, if you can find somebody who will get along better with this car, you can trade the lease and get something new. And it was actually a big deal in 08, 09 when suddenly people realized, I can't afford this BMW.
Yeah.
And so Lease Trader was doing a good business.
Along with my house.
Yeah, the only time I knew that this actually worked out well by accident, a friend of mine got, remember that Honda that was a little sports car that was a convertible?
The Del Sol?
No, after that.
S2000.
Yes. That was a sweet car, right?
Love the S2000.
Okay.
So sad they stopped making it.
She drove it. She's like, this is great. This is great. It was sort of like her midlife crisis car. And then she's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I need a real car. Like, there's no room in this car. But it was like 3 months in, but there was still a waiting list for the car.
Oh,
so
sweet.
She was able to trade it in and get a passport or something. But it was just one of those funny situations like, yeah, I want a convertible. I've just turned 50. And maybe not so much.
It was great in June, not so much in October.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
How can that catch you by surprise?
I don't know, because people are idiots. What do you mean? Because you buy because it's like an investment.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that stock. Why did you buy that? I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Did you think that IPO made sense for you? Yeah, I did. I thought it was going to make me money. Thought I was going to love it. Okay. Victoria, by the way, totally wants us to finish the show, but I'm having too much fun. Do any other automobile manufacturers besides Honda plan to produce cars that run on natural gas?
Wow. I'm sure that every major automobile manufacturer has considered it. I'm not sure it's quite ready for prime time. And actually, Consumer Reports did test a compressed natural gas Honda Civic a number of years ago. Yes, it really kind of drove like any other Civic, but the issue is though, where do you get fuel? And I don't see a lot of it in the near future, but there's lots of talk about fuel cells. There's lots of talk about electric vehicles, and Consumer Reports is also in the process of testing the Chevrolet Volt, which is the plug-in hybrid, as well as the Nissan Leaf. I got that name right from Nissan. The pure electric. I think you're going to see more hybrids and some electric cars before you're going to see an onslaught of compressed natural gas or other fuel cells.
And last time you were on the show, you said 10 years before we get the real, like the super duper class of electric cars that are like, you think it's 10 years?
I think at least, but and if I told this joke before, forgive me, but it's like, who
cares? Don't say that.
Who are the more intense liars in your life? Are they politicians or are they battery engineers?
That's hysterical.
I don't have any battery engineers in my life, so yeah.
I mean, battery engineers will tell you.
Or mutual fund managers, Jack.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help you.
Right.
So what we're finding with you think about internal combustion engines and we've morphed into hybrids and now we're kind of getting into electrics. We're glad that Nissan and General Motors are taking these steps. We have some reservations about them. There's some good, there's some bad. I'm not sure that electric vehicles, pure electric vehicles like the Nissan Leaf, are quite ready for prime time. But at least they're trying, and at least I give them credit. I kind of wish that they had started these discussions or this investment, in the 1980s, or they really started taking fuel, alternative fuel technology a lot earlier. We would be much farther ahead than we are now.
You mean maybe after like the gas and oil crisis
in the
that
70s,
we had in the 70s,
and
like that?
And in like 1980 or 81. Sure.
Yeah, like that?
Yeah, there's
ding-dongs.
Short-term thinking, long-term thinking.
All right, here's a long-term thinking, or short-term, I'm not sure actually. What do you think about converting old air conditioning Freon to new? It's a 1985 Chevy. Oh my God. Okay, let's skip that question. Marion, I think he doesn't think that's a good idea.
It'll cost more than the car. Once again.
They went over to R134 or something like that. They had to get rid of Freon, and so there was a way to convert your system to run on a different kind of liquid. And there are still, I think, air conditioning specialists out there that can do that conversion. But yeah, a 1980s era car, it'll cost you probably more than the car is worth.
Like, basically, there should be some point in time where you're like, okay, if it's before Billie Jean, don't put any money into it. That's it. Here's a question.
As long as you didn't say Billy Jack.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Car for a 17-year-old young man, which is not even a young man. It's a child. Let's be honest. I do not believe that we should give 16-year-olds licenses. I just want to say, I'm going on the record. Voting at 21, driving at 21. My sister would kill me because she's like, oh my God, it changed my life when my kids started to drive.
Well, I would have been disappointed because when I was 13, I wanted to drive, and they said, no, you've got 3 more years to wait.
It's bumper cars.
Yes, the best vehicle for a teenage driver is one that is definitely not a truck. It's one that is modern. What I mean by that is modern safety equipment. I'm talking about stability control, anti-lock brakes, head curtain airbags, all that stuff, because young drivers need every ounce of help they can get. Auto accidents are the #1 killer of teenagers. Among anything,
a safe but inexpensive first car.
Right. I mean, a lot of times parents say, my kid's about to start driving, and I've got this old car, and I'm gonna give him the old car because I don't give a crap about that. I'm gonna get myself a new one, and I put them all into cardiac arrest because I say, actually, your teenager should drive the new car that has all of the latest safety gadgets that I just mentioned. Don't give him the 10-year-old Ford Explorer because
not the clunker.
The trucks have a higher center of gravity. When a pickup truck or an SUV tips up, it can trip on the side of a curb and roll over, and that's when really bad things happen. You want a vehicle that is powerful enough to accelerate safely, but you don't want to give them a muscle car. There's all kinds of things that you have to consider when you're putting your teenage driver behind the wheel of a car. But the #1 thing is safety, and the biggest, bulkiest truck is definitely not the safest vehicle they can be in.
And so
I would say,
give me three great cars for teenagers.
Honda Accord.
Yep.
Toyota Camry.
Yep.
Subaru Legacy.
Wow. Okay.
And you, these are vehicles that are sensible. They handle well. They have good brakes. They have top-rated safety equipment and crash tests.
And no small SUV on that front?
No, not really. No, I mean,
Okay.
if there's some reason, some crazy reason that you came up with that you need an SUV, I would probably say like a Toyota RAV4, car-based model. The last generation Honda CR-V wasn't bad, but again, they don't. Nobody needs this, and you don't need the room of an SUV because you don't want your teenagers driving with anyone in the car either. I mean, there's all kinds of statistics that show that the accident rate goes up higher if your teenage driver has 2 or 3 of their friends in the vehicle with them, if they drive at night and all this stuff. There's a lot of information on teen driving on consumerreports.org, and in fact, Consumer Reports hosted a teen driving safety day at our track about a month ago, where we brought in about 40 teenagers and put them through the paces on our track and taught them about stability control and panic braking. I mean, the state of teenage driving right now is absolutely pathetic. And it's
I think it's all right.
I mean,
but also they're more distracted by everything. I mean, not to say that we weren't changing the radio,
yeah, but of course,
from texting,
right?
But that's part of the equation, and I'll get off the soapbox in a second. But I mean, honestly, it's like you want to grab onto a cause. I mean, help your teenager to be a better driver, and this whole, as you said, distracted driving, texting while driving, talking on the phone, blah blah blah, all this nonsense. And the manufacturers coming out with more and more ways to have you connected to the internet in your car.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, let's get that technology out of it when it comes to teenagers.
Okay. All right. Well,
Sorry.
that's sort of a downer, so I need to ask one more question.
Cool off, Quincy.
Woohoo! He is so hot. Ronald wants to know any difference between available small SUVs. You already said Toyota RAV4 is your favorite small SUV, right?
The RAV4 or the Forester, you can't go wrong with either of those.
All right. Jack, what's your number one car question? We got the expert here, so you better...
That stuff you pour in your tank to clean out your fuel injectors, hokum, or is that good?
Probably nonsense.
Okay.
I mean, they can say, they can say the gas companies are going to say, buy this fuel because it's cleaner, and buy this and buy that. Most of the fuel is all the same. There might be some additives here and there. I mean,
like the Techron or something like that. Is that?
Honestly, Consumer Reports has not tested fuel injector cleaner, so I can't emphatically say that it doesn't work.
Yep.
But I will go out on a limb and say all the other fuel-saving devices that you hear about, none of them work.
Okay.
And Consumer Reports has gone through great lengths to test a bunch of them. And the funny thing is that you get these wacky inventors or entrepreneurs or snake oil salesmen. They say, I've got this device that will improve every car's fuel economy by 50%. Well, if that device were real, every auto manufacturer in the world would have it. So
Sure.
I mean, don't fall for that. I mean, what do they say in investing? It's people are motivated by greed and fear.
That's it.
Right?
That's the only two things.
A car guy knows that. Woo.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when the price of gas goes up.
Sure.
Say, we've got this great fuel saving device, and you should buy it.
Right.
Because you're afraid.
What's the best way to sell a low mileage, late model minivan? You weren't here at the last show, but Mike is a minivan lover. He totally hearts minivans.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
The Honda, what's the one? Odyssey.
The Honda
Is that
Odyssey and the Toyota Sienna.
You love him.
Those are the only two. The rest are all playing catch up.
A low mileage, late model minivan. Who wants that?
A young family.
Okay.
I mean, as I've said before, minivans are the best family vehicle ever invented, and I have 2 small children, so I can have something. I kind of know what I'm talking about, I guess. I don't know, but I would put it on Craigslist. Go to autotrader.com. Go to eBay has an automotive section. I mean, minivans have a lousy kind of an image to them as being a mommy vehicle or a soccer mom or you've finally given in to.
My friend calls them loser cruisers.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I won't go there. I'm just not going.
I drove my sister-in-law's car. I loved it. It was like a Honda Odyssey. I was like, wow, this is awesome. It's so convenient. It's so easy.
Kids, you've got strollers. You've got child safety seats. You've got diaper bags. You've got all this junk that you bring with you because
it drives well.
It drives well. It's easy to get in and out of. It gets better fuel economy. It has better handling and braking than an SUV. I think minivans rock, and I think you hear about this family is husband and wife, and all of a sudden she's going to have twins. and after the husband's heart restarts, because he's in
yes.
cardiac arrest,
Of course.
you have to think, a minivan makes a ton of sense, especially on a summer road trip.
Yeah.
Forget it. It's the best. It's the best vehicle.
All right, last but not least, Victoria, our producer extraordinaire, wants to know, get this, how about engine performance chipsets? I wrote her back. I'm like, that's a dumb question. I don't even know what it means. So I'm just going to say, is there really 60 additional horsepower and fuel savings of 4 to 7 miles? That's what Victoria wants to know. I have no idea what that question means. You might.
It's what it kind of goes on what we talked about before about mechanics being more computer experts than wrench turners. Every modern engine has computer management, and there's ways to advance spark and timing and ways to manage fuel systems and things like that. I've heard of chips. Consumer Reports hasn't tested them, so I can't say whether they work or not. But a lot of the aftermarket tuners are really into these. The people that modify their Honda Civics and Subaru WRXs and things like that. They get the big wheels and the big exhaust systems that are as big as a coffee can and things like that. They're all chipped. Before anyone does that, however, I would be very careful about voiding your warranty.
Ooh, interesting.
Because if you do even slight modifications to the engine, and you're within, and say it's 20,000 miles into your owning your car, and you've chipped it, and you run it so hot the engine blows up, and you go back to the dealer and say, hey, this car's only got 20,000 miles under warranty, the engine exploded, and they find out that you've modified it. They're going to say, see you later.
Interesting.
You've done this to yourself. You have to buy a new engine, not us.
Jack Otter, I have a question for you. Last question. Rent, lease versus buy. What do I need to know? I'm a consumer. When should I lease? When should I buy? Well, let's do, lease versus buy a 1-year-old car.
Oh, that makes it even easier.
Okay, go on.
You're buying. Now, the one exception is if you're a business owner, you're deducting, then you might be better from a tax perspective with your lease. But that 1-year-old car, first of all, you're saving an enormous amount of money right off the top. And then, assuming you're going to drive that car for a long time, you're going to be driving it basically for free, except for maintenance costs, because you will have paid it off. And that's where I am with my car, and it's great.
Is there any reason to lease if you're not writing it off for business?
Convenience. Yeah, it's not an economic decision, but hey, I want a new car for 2 or 3 years.
Every 3 years, right?
Yeah,
and is that the only reason, Mike?
You don't have to worry about maintenance.
Okay.
Especially the higher end cars like a BMW, you have a 3-year lease. Everything is covered under maintenance. Wiper blades are covered. You don't have to do anything. You just drive it, and when the lease is up, you might sign up for another one. But the downside is you're leasing. You're always making a payment.
Exactly.
Right.
You're never done.
You're renting a car for life.
So.
Oof. Last but not least, will the squeak in my German car ever go away? No, it will not. All right, he's laughing so hard at me. It's so funny. It's cute. He has such fun at my expense.
And it's a Mercedes GLK.
Correct. But you outed me. I told you that in private.
You think you think I'm not paying attention? You think I'm not paying attention?
I struck a great deal.
You just tell my wife. Say, look, Mike actually is listening. He's listening.
She emailed me before. She said he never listens to me.
Yes. What color are my wife's eyes? Brown. Hello.
She's a brown-eyed girl. So. It's never going away, is it? Should I even just care? I'm like, going to get over it. I'll just drive it in the rain all the time. It never squeaks in the rain.
If you can, find a way to identify it, and you can take your Mercedes technician and take it for a ride and say, okay, you hear that? You hear that? You hear that?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes you have a problem with your car,
right?
And you bring it to the dealer, and it immediately stops. The problem stops.
Yes.
It happens to everyone. Everyone I know does that. And then the dealer's like, there's nothing wrong with your car. And you say, okay. And you drive away, and all of a sudden the problem's fixed.
Right.
So I would say take someone from the dealer, take a trusted mechanic, and reproduce the problem. Say, can you hear that? If the person says, yes, I can, then you say, can you fix it?
And you're under warranty.
I'm definitely under warranty, but I'm so beyond caring about it, but I'm sort of getting used to it. I'm trying to play the music loud.
Yeah, I was going to say turn up the radio.
All right, we got to finish because it's Victoria's last Ask the Experts. It's so sad. And by the way, I just want you to know that you beat Ben Bernanke. We're instead of watching Bernanke,
and my knuckles hurt too.
Killer. He's an economist. You could take him, kick his ass. Jack Otter.
Yes,
Is it fun to do the car
It's
ones?
great. That's why we've been going for an hour now.
The best. Yeah. All right. Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports. Check him out. He's got all the information in the world. We like to keep having you back.
Ask for me.
We know what we're going to do. Ask for me, Yonkers.
Ask for me.
He's the guy about Yonkers and the Fiat. When we next see Mike, let's go to the car track.
We'd take the show there.
Wouldn't that be
absolutely,
awesome?
yeah.
I can't wait. All right, Mike, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
And Jack Otter, executive editor. You're finally getting your title right.
Yeah, good
Isn't
job.
that amazing?
Yeah,
It's 2
just
years.
in time.
2
Yeah.
years, exactly. Indeed. I'm Jill Schlesinger. I'm the editor at large. He's Jack Otter,
Executive editor.
and you've been watching Ask the Experts. We'll see you next week.
Speaking of the 80s.